Good morning. It is Wednesday, November 17th. I'm Shane Seeley, and this is the CBC Morning Report. A leading behavior change specialist is telling the Morning Report there needs to be a major shift in the narrative on COVID-19 to address the slowdown in vaccinations here and the stigma surrounding the virus. The advice is coming from Cecilia Neblett-Brathwaite, who has now created an association with a primary focus and goal of addressing these issues. It's called the Caribbean Association of Behavior Change Specialists. And as founder and president, Ms. Neblett-Brathwaite says the mission is to create targeted messaging for individual groupings.
For example, you have the boys on the block. You cannot give them the same level of, the same kind of information that you're going to work with, for example, Granny. So we have to be targeted with our approach when we're looking at creating behavior change interventions that would work. And we have to make sure that we hear the pulse of the people. We need to get our statistics. We need to gather our data so that we can properly create our programs to meet the needs of each individual. Persons might say, hey, look, that is what they were doing before. I'm not knocking what they were doing before. We're looking to build. We're looking to help. We're looking to see how best we can use the behavior change model.
Regarding the COVID-19 vaccine, Ms. Neblett-Brathwaite is convinced that more research is needed on the ground to create the strategic intervention required.
Before we do anything, it should be a foundation of research. So we'll have to go around so that we can connect and communicate with the boys in the block to see, hey, look, why are you not taking the vaccine? You know, sometimes you hear religious reasons. Sometimes you hear, I spoke to a young guy last week and he said, ma'am, the cell phone always blowing up with things. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to listen to. I don't know what to think. And I just decided I will sit back and wait until some time has passed, then to take the vaccine. But in that time, you know, he's putting himself at risk and his family. You know, those boys are on the block. I was asking him if he owned his home. He said, no, he lives with grandma. So when he's finished with the block, then he goes home with grandma. So then you see how the elderly, they're being affected with COVID-19 because persons are living, most of the time we have these extended families where all of us, we live with grandma for a very long time, and we live in granny's house, auntie's there, uncle is there, everybody's there, you know, grandma is home, and we take the virus into the home because of lack of education.
Come on the heels of reports that COVID-positive individuals in home isolation are being forced out of their homes by relatives in some cases, which speaks to the COVID-19 stigma and discrimination. She believes the stigma and fear are the result of information overload.
You have all this information, you've heard about this, you've heard about that, you've heard WHO, you heard about everything. So tell me about it. What are your fears? What do you understand? Sometimes we have information overload, but we may have the wrong information. We may have just the wrong information. So although there's information overload, we must understand what are you thinking? How are you feeling? We need to understand the demographic data as well, so we can decide which community is at higher risk, where are the hot spots, which area we need to focus on more, which age group, which target population. If they're unemployed, these persons are mostly unemployed. We have also to focus on sex as well, because persons are still having sex, Shane. So we also have to focus on that, and relationships, because COVID-19 can pass as easy as that. So we have to make sure that we delve into all of these areas to make sure that when we're creating our programs, we create our focus on each and every segment of this pandemic.
Now, COVID-19 deaths in Barbados closing in on another grim milestone. We will share the details of our COVID-19 local, regional, and international updates next. COVID-19 death toll in Barbados now stands at 199 as 5 more people succumbed to the viral illness over the last few days. They include an 89-year-old woman who was dead on arrival at the Accident and Emergency Department of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital last Friday. The other casualties are a 68-year-old woman who passed away at A&E on Sunday, a 78-year-old man who died at the Harrison Point Isolation Facility on Monday, and 2 men ages 36 and 67 who died yesterday at Harrison Point as well. They were all unvaccinated. Meanwhile, Barbados recorded 323 new COVID-19 cases on Monday. They were discovered among the 1,830 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Laboratory. The new cases consist of 59 people under the age of 18. There are now 991 people in isolation facilities and 7,437 in home isolation. Normalcy seems to be returning to the West Coast just as it is on the South, with the curfew change now in place. Ice cream parlor Arctic in Holetown is thankful for the later hours as it means dinners can come over for some ice cream without rushing to make it home.
We changed the hours from 2 to 9 to 2 to 8 and 4 to 8 to 2, 4 to 9 to 2 to 8. So that 1 hour will allow us to serve customers that also coming from restaurants in the area. So that will likely increase our business and hopefully we can make some more sales from that. So that's what I'm hoping for. So we're hoping that the curfew being lifted would encourage more Bajans to come out and stay out in the area, and they wouldn't be as hesitant to stay a bit later so that they could catch us when we're open, because we close rather early compared to some of the restaurants in the area. So if they come out for a night in Holetown, they could eat dinner and lounge around and then come here for ice cream since the curfew's been lifted.
Restaurants further north are also happy about the changes. Manager of Little Good Harbor and the Fish Pot, Paul Edwards, says his guests are delighted with the change.
The guests have really enjoyed it. They've enjoyed having the extra hour or so, and they've been more relaxed in the restaurants. Obviously it's something for us to get used to again, working the late nights, but all the staff appreciate it. It's nice to see full restaurants again. Tonight we had a really busy night, and also a reasonably busy lunchtime as well. The island is very busy at the moment, and we appreciating all the extra custom. The guests are, as I said earlier, the guests are really appreciating the extra time.
Going further afield now, Bermuda's government is being called on to move to recoup millions overpaid through the unemployment benefit program there. It was set up to help those hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. We have a report from Bermuda Broadcasting.
In her 21-page report into the administration of the government's unemployment benefit program launched during the initial stages of the pandemic last year, Auditor General Heather Thomas found there had been a lack of review and validation by the government prior to processing and payment that led to applicants who were ineligible for the benefit being paid and the overpayment of people who were eligible. In the government's attempt to get funding for the program designed to provide weekly income to residents who lost their income due to the crisis, Ms. Thomas also concluding that mistakes were made and opportunities were present for abuse as processes, criteria, controls, and needs were not necessarily considered or put in place. As a result of interviews with various departments, interviewees indicated that there was blanket approval from the Minister of Finance, Curtis Dickinson, in order to expedite payments to residents without a source of income as a result of the pandemic. Elsewhere, part of the Auditor General's findings focused on the computer systems used to administer and manage the benefit program. Her report concludes that the IT systems used were not agile enough to respond effectively to the required procedures. carrying out her own eligibility test on 100 random samples of those people who were paid under the scheme. Ms. Thomas's team finding that only 72% of those paid were eligible, 6% were not eligible, and there could not be a conclusion drawn for 22%. And of the 72% who were deemed to be eligible for payments, the Auditor General's office finding that 15% were overpaid.
Guyana is mulling over whether COVID-19 antiviral pills should be procured by the country. It is awaiting the licensing of those pills. More in this report.
International drug companies such as Merck and Pfizer have submitted applications to the Food and Drug Administration to authorize antiviral pills to treat COVID. Based on reports of the study conducted so far, hospitalization was reduced by 89% and deaths were prevented from usage of the pills. However, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony said that the antiviral pills are yet to receive emergency authorization from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. He added that the pills are for persons who have already been infected with the virus.
So if we analyze that risk, and we think these people are going to progress, then it is good to start them on these medication. And both medication have fairly good efficacy in terms of preventing people from getting the most severe form of the disease. But as I said, these are new drugs, they just came out.
While explaining the effectiveness, Dr. Anthony said that the antiviral pills act on a life cycle of the virus, causing disruptions and preventing replication. The minister noted that the government will continue to monitor the authorization process and decide whether the pills will be used here.
Meanwhile, the U.S. drug company Pfizer has penned a deal to allow its experimental COVID-19 treatment pill to be made and sold in 95 developing nations.
The licensing deal means that a generic version will be available to around 53% of the global population. But the medical charity Doctors Without Borders is saying it's disheartened with the deal, which excludes countries with the capacity to make generic drugs like Argentina and China. Data from clinical trials show the pill cuts the chance of hospitalization or deaths for adults at severe risk of COVID by 90%.
Interesting developments on the international scene. Let's go over now to Pearson to hear what's happening on today's edition of Mornin Barbados. Pearson?
Thank you, Shane. Good morning, everyone. When you join me at 6:30 today, we'll continue our conversation with the Barbados National Task Force on Reparations under the theme, My Trident is Broken. We'll meet this morning with a lecturer in history at the UK Phil campus. We'll talk to him about what our history has taught us and what now we know we should do better. And today is World Prematurity Day under the theme, At Now, Keep Parents and Babies Born Too Soon Together. We'll look at the challenges of preterm birth. And we'll be meeting up with the Barbados Accreditation Council as they get ready to host their virtual expo. We'll hear who is a part of it and how we can be a part of it too. Just a little bit of what you can expect when you join me at 6:30 for Morning Barbados. Back to you, Shane.
Thank you, Pearson. After Independence is Christmas, and Christmas normally means barrels coming through the port, but some changes are on the horizon. We'll tell you all about it up next here on the Morning Report. Changes could be coming to the way barrels and other personal effects are cleared through the Bridgetown port. Currently, people are able to visit the facility in person to inspect and clear the imported items. Speaking during debate in the lower house yesterday on the customs bill, Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy Kirk Humphrey revealed there are security risks associated with this practice.
I think it was earlier this year, where there was some concern that people's goods were being tampered with. Some people wanted to come back into the port to see their things. We said, okay, if that's how you feel, come back into the port and see the things that belong to you. Because I don't want you to walk away feeling that something is happening in the port. The amount of cameras and so on in the strategic areas in the port makes it difficult for us not to be able to see it now, though. So come back in and see the things that belong to you. But there's going to be a point, sir, where we have to, in the port, move that area from being inside the very heart and soul and belly of the port to still inside the port, but not in the secure area, so that we do not expose Barbados to risk, sir, because a modern port cannot have everybody going inside of it, sir. It's a security risk, and we're going to have to be able to change that.
Now, on the other side of the aisle, the opposition leader, Bishop Joseph Atherley, agrees the establishment of an electronic single window would facilitate trade. He's concerned, however, that not enough attention is being paid to cybersecurity.
It is all right to sound good and to look good and to have the equipment, but if this is not properly secured, you are exposing people's business to the wind and to the world. You're exposing yourself to security perils, and it has happened elsewhere in developed countries, no less. And I think as you develop technological platform for providing government services, for facilitating better access to those services, for interlinking, saving time, and reducing those non-tariff impediments and barriers to trade, you gotta be concerned with security.
In other news, even though Barbadians have been given an additional 3 hours to move about with the shortening of curfew hours, some people are apparently not yet ready to change their routines.
By 9 o'clock, before 9, I'm at home. So 12 o'clock is no different. I'm at home.
If I'm not required to be out after a certain time, I don't do it. So it hasn't affected me, but I certainly understand how it would impact on commerce.
I can work late hours now, so I am using the advantage to working in my office late and just taking full advantage of that.
I'm out today, and I just try to do what I have to do today so that I don't have to come back out. So I'm fine with the curfew, however it is.
I'm not doing anything differently. I go home around 4, stay inside, and wait for night and the next day to come back out.
It don't make a difference to me. To be quite honest with you, curfew has taught me that the best thing for a person right now is to be by yourself, with your family, at home. You spend less, you're better off, healthier, all those good things.
Let's go back to Guyana. Tougher gun laws are coming. President Irfan Ali made the announcement in the wake of a 500% increase in armed robberies there.
I've asked the AG to look at the laws and to apply the highest penalty, to propose an amendment to apply the highest penalty of persons found with illegal weapons, because that is a major contributory factor to this.
In October of 2015, former Public Security Minister Kemraj Ramjatan had announced a gun amnesty program which saw a total of 186 illegal guns handed over to law enforcement authorities. Now, President Ali seems to be taking a page out of the former security minister's book to tackle the issue of illegal weapons on the streets.
We're going to give a period for all those persons with illegal weapons to deposit those weapons, after which the law will be amended to give you the greatest penalty.
The president also announced that programs would be introduced in the penal system that would be geared towards inmates who want to turn their lives around. The objectives behind these initiatives is to change the trajectory of incarcerated persons to ensure that they return to society as productive citizens instead of choosing crime as a career, post their release from jail.
The squeeze of higher natural gas prices on the European market and in European households and businesses could get even more uncomfortable. This after Germany's energy regulator slammed the brakes yesterday on a green light needed to allow Russian gas to flow to Europe through the long-delayed Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
It says the company hasn't complied with German regulations. The pipeline is the source of geopolitical tensions involving the US, EU and Russia. The US and the UK say this will make Europe even more reliant on Russia for energy. But Germany says Russian gas is needed to transition away from coal and nuclear energy. Dominic Kane has more from Berlin.
Their view has been very simply that they don't believe that the organisation behind the Nord Stream pipeline, called Nord Stream 2 AG, which is based in Switzerland, they don't believe that it has enshrined German law into its operations, at least based here in Germany. Quite technical ruling, but the basic deal being that the company needs to fully set itself up in Germany and accept German jurisdiction, as it were, before any green lighting can be given. In terms of the effect this ruling will have, well, it's a temporary stay in one perspective. We know that the company concerned, Nord Stream 2 AG in Switzerland, has got until a point in January to reply. But obviously there is the geopolitical significance of this. This pipeline really polarizes opinion, not just in Ukraine or Germany, but around Europe. There are some in Germany who say this is a good idea, that this is helpful to the German economy, that gas coming through will offer new opportunities for gas consumers around Western Europe. There are also many people politically, again, not just in Germany, not just in Ukraine, we know the British Prime Minister, the American President, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, have all expressed real concerns about Nord Stream 2.
U.S. President Joe Biden has called for better and more honest communication between China and the U.S. during a virtual call with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, where both leaders played up their close relationship. The two leaders were holding discussions over a video conference at a time when the two countries' relationship is deteriorating.
The leaders of the world's two biggest economies sat face-to-face for the first time, using their virtual summit as a way to reset points of tension in their relationship.
We need to establish some common sense guardrails, to be clear and honest where we disagree, and work together where interests intersect, especially on vital global issues like climate change.
For years, the United States has accused China of economic and defense provocations that include disrupting global trading practices that hurt American businesses, and more recently, stepping up military incursions near Taiwan. President Joe Biden said recently the U.S. would defend Taiwan in any conflict. But in Tuesday's summit, he also told the Chinese president the U.S. was committed to a one-China policy and opposed any change in Taiwan's status.
In sports now, the ICC T20 World Cup is coming back to the Caribbean in 2024. The host nation for every major ICC Men's Limited Overs event between 2024 and 2031 was confirmed yesterday. CBC's Melissa Farley reports.
In June 2024, West Indies will host the ICC Men's T20 World Cup for the second time since 2010, but it will be a joint hosting venture with the United States. The decision to give the USA a right to host the 2024 edition along with West Indies will also help the Games' efforts to be included in the Olympic Games, starting with Los Angeles in 2028 and following.
Barbados, good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today. Today being Wednesday, the 17th of November, 2021. I am Pearson Bowen. Welcome you this morning here in Barbados and those of you across the globe who are watching us on our YouTube channel and our Facebook stream as well. Grateful for your company. As always, thank you for joining us. Now, today we'll be looking, ladies, at uterine fibroids, or OBGYN. Will talk to us a little bit more about that and also share with you some possible surgical interventions, medical interventions for sure. So look out for that coming up a little later on. We'll meet the lady who has written the book, No Longer a Prisoner, Born to Win. No Longer a Prisoner, Born to Win, quite inspirational. She'll join us to talk about her journey thus far. And of course, it's Wednesday, so we're going into our manager's first aid kit. We are going into that because we're going to be climbing that ladder that reminds us that we need to take accountability as leaders. So where does the buck stop? It stops with you. Let's get started this morning by turning our attention now to the ongoing work of the Barbados National Task Force on Reparations. And we're joined this morning for that by Dr. Rodney Worrell, who is a lecturer in history at the Cayfield campus of the University of the West Indies. Dr. Worrell, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson, and good morning, Barbados.
Now, as a lecturer in history, you also study history. What has history told you about our experience as peoples of the Caribbean, and black people in particular, and how slavery has impacted us, and then what can we do about it?
Well, I did study history, and it clearly demonstrated that Caribbean peoples have been the victims of some of the worst crimes committed against humanity, right? We were the victims of slavery. We were the victims of the loss of lives of genocidal proportions in relations to the Neo-Indians. We suffer 100+ years of racial apartheid in the post-emancipation period. So our history was not the brightest history in relation to the oppression, the exploitation, the sufferation on these concentration camps inside of the Caribbean. So that is what it taught me. And it has also shown me that we have a moral duty and a responsibility to struggle for reparative justice. Right? We believe then that we have to, there's a debt.
Yes.
And this debt must be paid, right? So we believe that we should pursue this debt.
In that pursuing, is it all-encompassing? Because our history has also taught many of us that it was the white man who imposed slavery, but our history has also taught us it's not only the white man who imposed slavery. So how do we begin to clear up our view of who the oppressors were so that we can begin that journey towards reparation?
I don't know about your history, but my history has clearly shown me that inside of this Caribbean space, for the most part, right, it was whites who imposed the system of slavery. It was whites who colonized our nations, right? It was whites who imposed the slave laws, right? So even if we had a few colored people or a few black people who enslaved people, clearly that is in nowhere. We should nowhere seek to somehow deflect that responsibility from the European nations and the planters, right? Because as well, the planters got compensation doubly. They were paid for the loss of their labor at emancipation, and they were also given 4 years of free labor. So we have to factor in how the people were brutally exploited. So yeah. So we need to come to grips with that reality, right? And this is why we're saying that this debt, right? We had a landless emancipation, and we had a moneyless emancipation. In the 1930s, a man called Moses Small, right? When we were discussing the causes of the labor rebellions. Moses Small say, I can tell you the causes of this labor rebellion, right? The causes of this labor rebellion was smart, that we were let go like a pack of goats, right? Put on barren soil, and we had to return to the same places, right? Without money, without land. So, yeah, we need to make the broken as whole as possible, right? So we need to engage in that kind of discussion as to how we can generate the necessary support from the bottom up in pursuit of this noble and just cause.
How do we calculate the value of reparations?
I don't know if we can ever calculate the value of reparations, right? Because we're talking about lives being lost, right? You're talking about, so I don't know, but this is, I'm saying that we have had scholars who engage in all kinds of playing around with economics and arriving at the kinds of figures that they believe people should be given. I'm saying that the CARICOM have a 10-point plan, and inside that 10-point plan, we can work with aspects of the 10-point plan to seek to redress some of the deficiencies that exist inside the Caribbean, right? Infrastructural development, construction of museums, right? Scholarships. All of these are ways and means of fixing the problem, right? So we're not going to get into saying that they owe us $100 trillion or $100 billion as some groupings have been doing, but we're saying that the British and the French, right, because I'm speaking about in relation to CARICOM, have a responsibility as well. They're set these colonies dry, right? They exploited the colonies, exploited the people. So now we're saying that this is time to give back something to the development of the colonies, or I should say the former colonies.
The understanding of our history and the knowing of it and being able to be taught accurately what that history is that also a part of the move going forward as relates to reparations? Because it's one thing to say, rebuild my structures, help me with my infrastructure as well. But if we still operate in a space of ignorance, have we moved forward? What do you say from where you sit about that?
Right. I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I recognize that this is one of the contradictions as well, that whilst we are talking about reparations, we are saying that less history is being taught. Mm-hmm. However, we are lobbying and we are seeing some light in relation to developments taking place in the educational system in Barbados. Part of the CAPE syllabus as well addresses the question of reparation. So I am seeing more students now come into the campus that are having, when we are discussing reparations, they already have some knowledge of reparation, and this knowledge would have been gleaned through CAPE as well as through the Caribbean studies as well. So yeah, these are things that we must laud and applaud, and like you're saying, yeah, we wish for more, and as you said as well, and I think it's an excellent point, so I will emphasize it. Yeah, we need to have accurate discussions and accurate information about our history.
And so, as we're asking people to join the campaign, My Trident is Broken, that's what they're asking for. They're asking, okay, I understand it in theory, but how do I begin now to actually touch the facts, so that touching of the facts propel me into action? So where do we turn so that we better understand and get a fuller grasp of what it is that we're required to do when we talk about My Trident is Broken?
Well, I think the educational aspect will cause people to want to be part of the struggle. The educational aspect will cause people to spread the words, right? And we will have these fears and misconceptions about what is reparations, because sometimes when people engage in a conversation about reparations, there's a real fear that somehow we want to take away something from the white people in Barbados, or we are anti-whites and this kind of hysteria. So the exposure to the facts, right? And then with the exposure to the facts, the knowledge, and the movement will start to grow, because once it's a bottom-up movement, then the government, and I'm saying the governments in Europe and elsewhere, will recognize as well that there is a serious movement, not only governments asking for reparations, but the people, and the people are pushing the governments to ask for this reparations, right? Yeah, we've been through similar movements in the past, movements that seem impossible. For example, when some people were speaking about freedom from slavery, people said it was impossible. In 1945, at the 5th Pan-African Conference, when people were saying that Caribbean and Africa should become independent, people said that you people are mad, right? So we're saying that we have that history to draw on as well. So whilst the task seem Herculean, right, we believe that efforts like this spreading on the social media, more and more people will get on board, and we will press ahead, because we have a duty and a responsibility, and it is something that is morally, right, morally correct.
Part of the indoctrination of ourselves as a black people is the skepticism that exists between us. You know, it's all well and good for Rodney to say this, but when Pearson says it, you know, perhaps I'll listen to him. And so there's a lot of that fraction exists among ourselves as a people. How do we mend that so that collectively, not just in Barbados, the 166 square miles, but all the peoples of the region join in pressing for the reparations that we believe we deserve?
Okay, yeah, I don't know if we are different than any other people though, but I would say across the region we have national committees, national task forces that are supposed to be doing similar work. So hopefully the combined efforts of these various entities will bring about the pressure from down below, would see an explosion in this kind of activism, this kind of activity, and it would not be confined to a few academics, a few activists, and a few members of, or a few committees, few task forces. But yeah, we will generate real a mass-based movement. Yeah, and I don't think that we are different to people that we have more hang-ups, and no, I don't think all of these are myths that we have to shatter. We must admit there are divisions, and there are divisions in all societies based on race and class and religion and all of these things. I mean, sometimes when you hear the kind of negatives that black people say about black people, you wonder, and when you look at people elsewhere in the world, right, you don't see the kind of unity that they're talking about as well, right? They might be united here, and when black people go to Europe, they're some of them are very united in their spaces as well, right? As a majority people, you will see these conflicts, these tensions, but these are things that we also have to struggle to eliminate as well. Right? This is it's not yet the kingdom, and even inside the biblical Garden of Eden, there was conflict as well, and there were just 4 people there as well. So
well, there's a new world coming. There's a new world coming. Got to leave it right there, Dr. Warrow. But thank you so much for joining us, for piquing our interest even further, to delve even greater into our history, so we get a greater understanding of who we are and who we've been, and now where we need to go as well. But we want to encourage people to go on to Instagram, the social media. My Trident is Broken on Instagram, Facebook, and of course the Barbados National Task Force on Reparations on Facebook, and get to know more about how we can join the fight, join the struggle to press more for reparations. Thank you so much for joining us.
I thank you as well. Thanks.
You're very welcome. We're going to take a break here, and we're coming back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
14 minutes now to go to 7 o'clock as we turn our attention to World Prematurity Day. I know you raise your eyebrows, you're asking if there's a day for that. World Prematurity for real? Yes, there is. And today they're operating under the theme Zero Separation. Act now. Keep parents and babies born too soon together. So that's what we're focusing on as we're joined by Dr. Gillian Birchwood, who's our consultant pediatrician and neonatologist with the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and our good friend here at Mornin Barbados as well. And there's Janelle Aline, who's a parent of someone born premature. She's joining us now. They're both joining too. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning.
Dr. Birchwood, good morning.
Barbados.
Yes, indeed.
Morning.
Let's talk about preterm and why do some babies born preterm?
Well, that is a great question, Pearson. And there's so much active research. Some of the reasons we know and some we're not quite sure. So about 10% of all babies in Barbados and around the world in most places are born prematurely. And some of the reasons could include having an infection in the lining of the womb. Or sometimes babies may be born soon because their mothers or the babies in the womb may be having complications, and our obstetric colleagues may have to actually have those babies delivered so that the mom and the baby can be protected. So there are multiple reasons why.
But when that happens, what are the dangers for both mother and baby?
Yes, babies who are born prematurely at less than 37 weeks very frequently require support. The most common type of support that they will need is breathing support, because when they're born prematurely, every single organ in their body is premature. One of the first things we expect a baby to do is breathe, and if they're premature, they may have difficulty breathing. So they need breathing support. They may not be able to maintain their body warmth, which is why they may be kept in an incubator. They may not be able to feed or suck, believe it or not. They have to be taught to do so in many instances. They may not be able to digest the food properly. They may be prematurity in their heart because of an open connection that is not supposed to be there, that we may have to deal with. Their skin may be premature, and they may be born with quite extensive bruising. Just because they're so young, they're not really ready to be exposed to the outside world. So they require a lot of support.
But that support, thankful, we have here at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Our medical system is ready to respond to that. Janelle, you have a little miracle. And that little miracle of yours was also a bit of a nightmare at some point for you. Talk to me about your story.
That's correct.
Share your story.
Well,
basically
at 26 weeks, I went in, my membranes ruptured, and I went into preterm labor. Basically at that time, the doctors were basically trying to manage keeping her inside until till she got to full term. But that didn't happen. She was too excited to come into the world. So about 2 days after I was admitted to the hospital, she came. And then our journey into NICU
Don't walk
started.
so fast. Don't walk so fast for me. So here it is at 26 weeks.
Yeah.
You got that daunting news. The miracle is ready to hit the world. I am sure you had fear and concern, trepidation, all sorts of things panicked you. Tell me about that moment when you were told, miracle is ready.
Well, I don't think anything could ever have prepared me for that. Obviously, it was a lot of emotions that went into the moment. And at first I started to cry, and then we went into okay, let me get into the mode of let's see what we can do, and let's take this journey day by day by day. And that's exactly what we did. So when we found out that, she was going to come, we were just all right, let's just take this. We got our team of people around us to pray. We formed a prayer group and everything. And then we just took it from there, and we took it day by day.
And what were the doctors saying to you at that point about, just to allay your fears, it perhaps will be okay? What did they say?
Basically, they said to us, it's a 50-50 chance. Don't go into it thinking okay, 10 months down the road or whatever be it. They said, just take this journey day by day. They said there'll be good days. There'll be days that Miracle will do fantastically. And there'll be some days that she might struggle a little bit. And exactly how they prepared us is exactly what happened. Okay. So we just took it, as I said, day by day, and we just went through. And the staff at QEH was extremely supportive through our journey.
I can tell you for a fact, I've been in there twice. I know exactly what you're talking about. So there you were, the little Miracle was born, and little Miracle now found herself a resident of the NICU, the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. And is this little
Yes, she
Miracle we're
did.
looking at the moment?
That is she.
What size was she? How big was she? How small? Talk to me.
She came at 745 grams, which was just over a pound.
Oh dear.
So here she had,
Mhm.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So like you're seeing her breathing apparatus, and I think right now she's having a blood transfusion in that picture and everything. So yeah.
Did it? Ah, like a miracle now. And that's the joy that Dr. Birchwood, that we can all experience and know that our systems can support us in this and we can have beautiful outcomes. Because here's a beautiful Miracle who is living and thriving today.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
Very sassy.
So talk to me, Dr. Birchwood, about what NICU does and how NICU can have these beautiful miraculous outcomes.
Yes, you know, it is really quite incredible. Many people don't even know that the Newborn Intensive Care Unit, or the NICU, exists until they need to use the services. And I just represent the team because it's a huge team. I can't look after those babies by myself. So we have doctors, nurses, health aides, housekeeping staff, and our wonderful ward clerk, all of whom form the team. And you see some of the members of the team there who look after the babies. So it's a very dedicated team. And we use a lot of technology on the Newborn Intensive Care Unit. We have to do a lot of preparation when we're expecting one of these premature babies to be born. So for example, you can see there, this is one of our nurses, Nurse Rushika Braffett, who's there with one of the typical setups that we will have when we are expecting a newborn baby. You'll see the incubator, which is to try to duplicate providing the warmth of the mother's womb. You'll see monitors, pumps, ventilator, other breathing apparatus, a lot of equipment just to support our little babies. And people have the misconception that when babies are born prematurely, that somehow they're likely to have developmental problems. Although that is potential, that is the potential that there will be developmental problems, the vast majority of babies who are born prematurely from 26 weeks and up will not have significant developmental problems. The younger they are, the greater the likelihood, but the odds are actually stacked in babies' favor from 26 weeks and up. So it is really very worthwhile, even though it is a daunting task, something that can be emotionally draining, but it's so worthwhile for the little babies. And you'd have seen the pictures of Miracle just now and where she came from. And that's incredibly encouraging to the staff for all of the work that we have to do as a team, I want to emphasize.
I know it's great work because I have a niece who was born prematurely. She's now herself a medical doctor. So, Janelle, the possibilities are real that they will grow up to be thriving and productive members of our community. Access Janelle to embrace and to caress your baby Miracle. How was that for you day in, day out, hour by hour? Because you said it was 50-50 at periods of time. That was what you realized as well. How was that experience for you dealing with the conditions there in ICU?
Basically, we had a very, very strong support system. So what I did early out was to find other preemie moms who would have gone through kind of the similar journey as Miracle would have gone through. So that was very, very supportive. So basically, like each time something would happen or each day, you know, I would go into NICU or something would happen, I kind of went back to, well, we had a very good relationship with the doctors and nurses who would explain to us what was going on. And it also would have the support of other preemie moms along the journey who were very extremely supportive. And then there came a time where, you know, you were asking about caressing and stuff like that. We weren't able to touch her immediately. There were some days we were allowed to, but then she developed an infection where we couldn't have touched her. So it took us about maybe a month and a half before we were actually able to hold her. And that experience was just amazing, phenomenal. You know, like it just made everything, the whole journey up to that point worth it, you know, waiting for that moment to happen.
Just watching your
So,
face,
yeah.
I can see the glow that says, yeah, you were so happy
Yes.
after that period. I mean, it seems like a long time. I mean, you'd given
It
birth to a
was.
Miracle, and then you could not even touch Miracle because she had an
Could
infection,
not.
and you were more of a threat to her than she to you. But I'm glad so much so that you've been able, through this experience, to have enjoyed your Miracle. Dr. Birchwood, you know, I don't know, what are the numbers like in terms of preterm births at the QE? How many, and then what, do you have enough capacity to deal with it?
Well, as I said, about 10% of all of our deliveries per year are born preterm, and that is around 250 babies a year. Some of them will not need to come to the newborn intensive care unit, but certainly the ones who are 34 weeks and below will have to visit us. And every year we have about 12 to 15 of the extremely tiny babies. These are the ones who are born less than 1,000 grams, and we call them micro preemies because they are the smallest of the smallest preemies. And the little micro preemies are the ones who require the most care. So all of them certainly will have to be on the newborn intensive care unit, and they will spend many weeks, many months on the NICU, sometimes up to 6 months. The smallest baby that we've had who survived and went home was just over 500 grams, and that's about a pound. And you know, you can imagine the amount of hard work that would have gone into looking after such a baby. And she is 2 years old at the moment, and our team is so happy with how she's been growing and developing to this point.
And that's so important. You're going to make me stumble here now, you know, because I know I've been the journey, and you think of it, you give birth to a baby that fits into the palm of your hand, full body in the palm of your hand.
Yes.
And you're wondering, how is it possible this little thing can survive? But these little things do survive, they thrive. We're looking at some of these very tiny, tiny ones, and you have the arms strapped. They're so precious. So precious.
Yes, this
and look
is
at how they
Sanaya.
grow.
This is little Sanaya, who was born at just over a pound and a half.
Wow.
And now that's her first birthday, which happened this year. Her parents very kindly agreed to share the photos to give hope to everyone. And then we have some other pictures. This is Jackson, who was 2.5 pounds when he was born. And as the pictures progress, you'll see this is when he was about a year old, I think. And then you'll see him just now. And this is when he's 3 years old on his 3rd birthday. You see lovely Jackson. Thanks to his parents for sharing the photos. And then this is Mateo on his day of birth, and you see him requiring the breathing support with all the lines attached to him in the incubator. So much equipment we have to use. I know Janelle will be familiar with this sort of picture. And he was just about over 2 pounds. And this is him as he's progressing, breathing on his own now. And this is when he was 3 months old. And now he is 5 months old. There you go. So that's Mateo.
Yes.
Thank you very much to his parents for sharing his photos as well. Because, you know, it's important to give others hope and know that, yes, there may be prematurity, but there is hope beyond that for the children. And we are grateful for all the support we've received over the years in the forms of donations to the unit, because we use so much equipment, and the equipment is often incredibly expensive. The picture I showed you earlier, you're looking at about $200,000 worth of equipment in that picture alone.
Wow.
And so we really definitely appreciate, you're looking at
and that's just to service
worth
one
of equipment.
baby.
Just for one baby. And we might have 5 to 10 babies born at the same time who need this kind of support. So we really rely on donations from the public, though the hospital does its very best to provide us with support, but it's expensive, but very worth it when you see the outcome for our little ones.
I so agree with you. Janelle, do you get a chance still to keep up that connection with the other preterm mothers? You know, do you still keep a little group going?
Of course. And even now, like, our journey has changed in the sense that we now connect with other preterm, other moms who are preemies to assist them through the journey. Because obviously it can be lonesome if you don't have somebody there to support you through the journey. So now, like, our connection is a little bit different.
That's good. So now you're providing support. Talk to a mother today, someone who's pregnant, who feels her labor pains beginning, and she's, oh my goodness, it's too soon. What do you say to her to comfort her thoughts today?
I would just say, get your medical team around you and just take it every day, moment by moment as it comes. It doesn't make sense getting overworked over something that may never happen, but just get your medical team in early and just get them to monitor you and just take your journey day by day.
And what do you say, Dr. Birchwood, to that?
I would fully agree. I know Janelle has been through the whole experience. You take it one day at a time. Tomorrow is promised to no one, but you take it one day at a time. That adds up to weeks and then months, and before you know it, your baby is home. So it's really important not to think too far ahead, because that can be a lot to take in all at once for a mother who's expecting, or parents who are expecting a premature baby.
Indeed, so what a miracle indeed. Thank you so much, Dr. Birchwood, and thank you, Janelle Aline, for sharing your story as well. And do give Miracle, I think you can give her a kiss now. That's safe to do so for all of us here at Mornin Barbados, and congratulations on her birth, and for you enjoying the joys of motherhood now, of your little miracle in your arms. Dr. Birchwood, as always, thank you for your expertise as well. Thank you.
Thank you for the chance to talk today.
You're very welcome. Today being World Prematurity Day. If you can make a donation towards the work of the Newborn Intensive Care Unit at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, we do encourage you to do so generously. As Dr. Birchwood would have said, a single piece of equipment, all that's attended to keeping that baby thriving, can cost over $200,000, just one. And there are many babies that are born per year preterm. We encourage your support. We're going to take a break here. We're back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
3 minutes after 7 o'clock, let's get an update on the news. Here's Shane Seeley.
Thank you, Pearson. Your 7 a.m. headline news lead. It's believed that a behavior change model could be the answer to the slowdown in COVID-19 vaccinations here in Barbados and the stigma surrounding the virus. The Caribbean Association of Behavior Change Specialists is the organization that has been created to address these issues, and the founder and president, Cecilia Neblett-Brathwaite, says the mission is to create targeted messaging for individual groupings.
For example, you have the boys on the block. You cannot give them the same level of, the same kind of information that you're going to work with, for example, Granny. So we have to be targeted with our approach when we're looking at creating behavior change interventions that would work. And we have to make sure that we hear the pulse of the people. We need to get our statistics. We need to gather our data so that we can properly create our programs to meet the needs of each individual. Persons might say, hey, look, that is what they were doing before. I'm not knocking what they were doing before. We're looking to build, we're looking to help. We're looking to see how best we can use the behavior change model.
Her comments come on the heels of reports that COVID-positive individuals in home isolation are being forced out of their homes in some cases by relatives, which speaks to COVID-19 stigma and discrimination. She believes the stigma and fear are the result of information overload.
You have all this information, you've heard about this, you've heard about that, you've heard about WHO, you heard about everything. So tell me about it. What are your fears? What do you understand? Sometimes we have information overload, but we may have the wrong information. We may have just the wrong information. So although there's information overload, we must understand what are you thinking? How are you feeling? We need to understand the demographic data as well, so we can decide which community is at higher risk, where are the hot spots, which area we need to focus on more, which age group, which target population, if they're unemployed, these persons are mostly unemployed. We have also to focus on sex as well, because persons are still having sex, Shane. So we also have to focus on that, and relationships, because COVID-19 can pass as easy as that. So we have to make sure that we delve into all of these areas to make sure that when we're creating our programs, we create our focus on each and every segment of this pandemic.
199, that's the COVID-19 death toll in Barbados right now, as 5 more people succumbed to the virus in the last few days. They include an 89-year-old woman, who was dead on arrival at the Accident and Emergency Department of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital last Friday. The other casualties are a 68-year-old woman who passed away at the A&E on Sunday, a 78-year-old man who died at Harrison Point Isolation Facility on Monday, and 2 men ages 36 and 67 who died at Harrison's Point yesterday. They were all unvaccinated. Meanwhile, Barbados recorded 323 new cases of COVID-19 on Monday. They were discovered among 1,830 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Lab. The new cases consist of 59 individuals under the age of 18. There are now 991 people in isolation facilities across Barbados and 7,437 people in home isolation. Life seems to be already returning to, well, businesses on the West Coast, like on the South as well, with the shortening of curfew hours. Ice cream parlor Arctic in Holetown is thankful for the later hours, and it means that diners can come over for ice cream without having to rush to make it home.
So we're hoping that the curfew being lifted would encourage more Bajans to come out and stay out in the area, and they wouldn't be as hesitant to stay a bit later so that they could catch us when we're open, because we close rather early compared to some of the restaurants in the area. So if they come out for a night in Holetown, they could eat dinner and lounge around and then come here for ice cream since the curfew's been lifted.
And further north, the manager of Little Good Harbor and the Fish Pot, Paul Edwards, says his guests are delighted with the changes.
The guests have really enjoyed it. They've enjoyed having the extra hour or so, and they've been more relaxed in the restaurants. Obviously, it's something for us to get used to again, working the late nights, but all the staff appreciate it. It's nice to see full restaurants again. Tonight we had a really busy night, and also a reasonably busy lunchtime as well. The island is very busy at the moment, and we appreciating all the extra custom. The guests are, as I said earlier, the guests are really appreciating the extra time.
And some Barbadians have been having their say about the curfew as well, and it seems that some are apparently not ready to change their routines with the longer hours.
By 9 o'clock, before 9, I'm at home. So 12 o'clock is no different. I'm at home.
If I'm not required to be out after a certain time, I don't do it. So it hasn't affected me, but I certainly understand how it would impact on commerce.
I can work late hours now, so I am using the advantage to working in my office late and just taking full advantage of that.
I'm out today, and I just try to do what I have to do today so that I don't have to come back out. So I'm fine with the curfew, however it is.
I'm not doing anything differently. I go home around 4, stay inside, and wait for night and the next day to come back out.
It don't make a difference to me. To be quite honest with you, curfew has taught me that the best thing for a person right now is to be by yourself, with your family, at home. You spend less, you're better off, healthier, all those good things.
And that's your 7 a.m. headline news. I'm Shane Seeley. Back to you, Pearson.
Shane, thank you. 10 minutes after 7, a break, and we're back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So it's 11 after 7. You know what comes next. You know you have to call me. Call me, please, on 228-5562 or 228-5563. I have a question for you. Why? Because it's time for today's Crumbs question of the day. So 228-5562 or 228-5563. Here comes today's Crumbs question of today. That question is, how many sizes of whole great cake are sold at Crumbs Bakery, and what are those sizes? Two parts. How many sizes of whole great cakes are sold at Crumbs Bakery, and what are those sizes? Call me now, 228-5562 or 228-5563. Good morning to you. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
It's time to rise and shine. Good morning. All right, let's try to get that sorted out. So my question to you today is, how many sizes of whole great cakes are sold at Crumbs Bakery, and what are those sizes? Good morning. Hello. Still nothing there. Still nothing there. Just be patient, folks. We will try to get that worked out. So think. Let those brains go, and then get ticking away on 228-5562 or 228-5563. How many sizes of whole great cakes are sold at Crumbs Bakery, and what are the sizes? Good morning. Hello. Still nothing. Still nothing. Still nothing. So I hope we get this sorted. If we can't get it sorted out, then we have to hold the question on perhaps until tomorrow. So how many sizes of whole great cakes are sold at Crumbs Bakery, and what are those sizes? Can we try again to see? Let's try again. Good morning. Hello. All right. We seem not to be able to hear each other, and we'll try to get that sorted out. And hopefully tomorrow morning, we will be A-OK, so we can get that all sorted out. All right. Can we try one more time then? All right. Good morning. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. So no. We just can't. But I'm so sorry about that. We'll try to get that sorted out for tomorrow so we can have our usual fun in the morning right here on Morning Barbados. So what we'll do then is we'll take that break and we'll come right back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good
15 minutes after 7 o'clock, let's look at the work of the Barbados Accreditation Council and that virtual expo that happens next week as we get you up and ready for that. Joining me right now to talk a little bit more about the work and that expo is the Executive Director of the Barbados Accreditation Council, Lisa Gale. Good morning to you, Lisa.
Good morning, Pearson. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Now, I know you're having a virtual expo, we'll talk about that in just a moment, but just to bring people up to scratch one more time about the work of the BAC, the Barbados Accreditation Council. Let's remind them what it is that you do.
Yes, thanks so much. We are the national external quality body for higher education, including post-secondary in Barbados. So being the sole, we are responsible for ensuring that there's quality in our programs, in our institutions, as well as what the students get, ensuring that they have globally recognized quality education. We also have another segment of our role, which is equally important, and that is ensuring that we facilitate the ease of doing business, yes, but specifically allowing for travel within the CARICOM Skilled National. So we issue and verify the skill certificate. So on one hand, we are assuring quality for higher education. On the second hand, we're facilitating the movement of labor within the region. Those are the two principal roles that the BAC facilitates at this time.
We are comfortable in knowing that this institution with which we study is accredited, and therefore the qualification that we attain at the end of our study is recognized globally. Then at the same time, we're also, as skilled Caribbean people, wanting to know that I can take my skill, the thing I've learned and the thing I've earned, and now go elsewhere and earn some money and being able to apply my trade in a different jurisdiction within the Caribbean region as well. And that, I think, is a great reason for us to always check out the ongoing work of the Barbados Accreditation Council. Do you find still that are you seeing still the flow of people to register for the CARICOM skill certificate?
Yes, that is actually our largest category of service at this point. We do have, of course, a number of persons being interested in registration and accreditation, but because it is at the individual level, we have a lot of persons, Barbadian and otherwise, who are seeking the facilitation through the skill certificate. We also have persons who have skill certificates already from other CARICOM countries, and they're coming to Barbados and they want to work, but they have to get their certificate verified. So that's another service that we're also offering.
I'm being lazy, I know, because I haven't yet registered. I can't wait to register, but I can't found the time.
And we have categories. Remember, we have 12 categories, of which you call. One of those categories would be immediate persons. And that would have been one of the 5 categories that we would have started with at the very beginning, way back in 2004 when we started issuing skill certificates.
I'd love to explore the potential of working somewhere else. Honestly, I would. And I think I want to encourage other people who feel that same buzz and excitement about wanting to apply their trade somewhere else to do that. Accredit yourself with the Barbados Accreditation Council.
And in this very difficult time in COVID, and you've lost opportunity in one jurisdiction, I'm sure you can try your hand at getting it in another.
Absolutely. Now, the virtual expo is next week on the 24th, and with the theme Adapting Today for a Better Tomorrow. Let's talk a little bit about the virtual expo and why you're going virtual this time.
Well, given the challenges that we're having with COVID and hosting any large events where we're trying to social distance, we thought it best to use the opportunity to adapt given what we're experiencing. We still wanted to give persons the same virtual expo that they are accustomed to every year, and we knew we couldn't host it physically, so we opted to do it virtually. And I think that is a good example of how you pivot in this type of environment. Do something different using what you have.
And so on the screen, we're showing folks what it is we're talking about. We're talking about the Adapting Today for a Better Tomorrow, the Barbados Accreditation Council's virtual expo, Wednesday, the 24th of November, from 10 in the morning to 3. So while you're there, we can visit virtual booths. What are those booths? Just walk us through the experience one will have next week, Wednesday, when we register to be part of the virtual expo.
We actually have another flyer, so that is version 1. I'm sure we're going to share with you the other one.
Yes.
Much more exciting. But what I would share, so it is going to start at 10 and it's going to conclude at 3 p.m. And in the very early segment, we have the Minister of Education who will be addressing us with the She would do the featured remarks. I would also bring a presentation for the BAC and our partner, which is the National Transformation Initiative. The CEO, Dr. Alison Leacock, she would also be giving some remarks at the very beginning. We then have a segment where the BAC does a presentation going much more in depth into what we do, the types of specific services that we offer, etc. And then we would have the National Transformation Initiative doing a similar scenario where they would also be speaking specifically about those services that they offer as well and the types of courses persons can join into. And then we go into the virtual booths. We have several of our providers who have said, yes, I want persons to know a little bit more about what we do, about our accredited status, about how they can get further education. And then as well, we'll have our own virtual booths where persons can come and ask specific questions about our services as well as the NTI services. And then we have a lot of prizes, we have a lot of giveaways. It's going to be an exciting day.
It surely will be. The UWI Open Campus, I see, the UWI Caveville Campus, American University of Barbados, International Academy of Cosmetology School, along with the Barbados Civil Aviation Center, and a whole lot more will all be
so
there.
Range,
Yeah, so that we, as we do it virtually, as we do it physically, we do it virtually. We can move from booth to booth and experience, get to know a whole lot more about what each offers, and in knowing more about each offers, find out how or what opportunities for training would be made available to us with the Barbados National Transformation Initiative as well, and other opportunities through the organizations. It sounds very all-encompassing, and I'm really excited about this.
It is.
So
it
for
is,
anyone who is equally excited, how can we? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I didn't hear you at that point. My apologies.
That's
So
all right.
yes, you can register on our website at thebac.gov.bb, or you can look at any of our social media handles. And I'm sure the National Transformation Initiative as well, they too also have been sharing information with the persons who've shown interest in the past. So I'm really sorry that you don't have the right flyer, but we'll share that right flyer with you.
That's all right.
This
But
was
you know,
our first version.
The magic to all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is it's absolutely free. The experience, however, that you get is absolutely awesome. And that's the whole point here, you know, that free of cost, you get to interact with all of these professionals, you get to hear their experiences, and you get to find out more about how you can benefit from that experience as well, as the Barbados Accreditation Council exposes you in this expo to all that's available, all of the opportunities possible, and how you can now register with the Barbados Accreditation Council to take full benefit of those opportunities presented.
Yes, person. There are a number of persons who are at home, they are quarantining, or they can't go anywhere, they're either not working, or some persons are actually working from home and they can log in on the side. But what we ask persons to do is to note that this is an opportunity for them to just learn a little bit more about something that can benefit them. The persons who have finalized whether postgraduate degrees as well, but they can do short courses, they can do midterm courses, they can get an understanding of if they want to augment their skill set right now. This expo is for them. I'm actually studying with the University of Melbourne in Australia, and it is a phenomenal opportunity using the online platform to increase and improve my own skill set. So I would encourage persons to come to this expo to learn where they can get more information about a new course or something like that.
Registration is going very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, but you need to register as soon as possible. So head over to the website,
bac.gov.bb.
That is correct. And register now. Is there a cap on the number of people? Or I know people come and go as would happen in the physical expo anyway. In the virtual space, is there a cap on the number of people at any time?
Well, thanks for asking that. We're going on the hopping platform and we don't have those limits actually. We're using we're doing the unlimited platform.
Good.
So that the number of persons that come in can participate.
That is fantastic. Lisa Gale, I wish only the very best to the Barbados Accreditation Council. And of course, thank you for partnering with us here at CBC to be able to share this message. I can only encourage the very best. I encourage people to sign up, register, and experience the virtual expo as well. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Pearson.
You're very welcome. Morning Barbados will continue right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We are approaching 26 minutes now after 7 o'clock, and folks, poor leaders ask who is at fault. Strong leaders ask, where did the process break down? Those are the words of Michael Timms, but we'll get the words now of my girl, Joan Underwood, as we continue our delve into the manager's first aid kit. Good morning to you, Joan.
And good morning to you as well, Pearson, and to everyone who's joining us.
Oh, it's so wonderful to see you as always. You know, so many people are talking about you, Miss Joan, and this experience with us here on Morning Barbados. And that's a good thing because we're learning so much from your experience and the knowledge that you've given us through the book, Manager's First Aid Kit. Now, today we want to look at Chapter 5, where the buck stops. And that requires all of us to be able to take accountability when the buck stops at you.
Indeed, indeed. And, you know, it's human nature to defend oneself when something goes wrong. So instinctually, we may be, you know, tempted to make excuses, but as managers, as leaders, what we need to do is to step up to the plate. And instead of showing up as being a victim of the circumstances, to show up as someone who has authority, who has power, and who's committed to making things right.
Well, you've just stepped right onto the accountability ladder. And I'm glad you brought us to that point, indeed, stepping all the way through. And in the book, you've shown us the design of the accountability ladder. You've shown just exactly with that underneath the dark line where the victims fall, and above the dark line where people with responsibility are powerful. And so walk us through these steps on the ladder for us so that we can better understand it. And for those who are reading along with me, this is on page 35. We're looking at Chapter 5. How do we read this ladder and how do we understand where we need to put our feet as we work towards becoming better managers?
Okay, so at the bottom of the ladder, well, first up, accountability comes into play when something goes wrong for the most part. Okay, you were expecting a certain outcome, a certain level of performance, it did not materialize. So what happens then? So again, it's when the buck lands on your desk. And at the very first rung on the ladder, you have unaware. So you're oblivious to what has happened. So someone asks you, you know, why didn't so-and-so happen, or what went wrong here? And your response is, I don't know.
I don't know, yeah.
So that's the first rung. The second rung up is you can be aware, but your reaction is to blame somebody else. So what went wrong here? Man, it's those people they gave me to work with. They never do what they're supposed to. And so you start pointing fingers, you look for somebody to throw under the bus. So blaming is the second rung on the accountability ladder. The next one up is to make excuses. So you start saying, well, you know, it wasn't my fault. It's because so-and-so happened. I was expecting this to happen. And you have a litany of excuses.
Yes.
Notice nothing we've said or done so far helps to fix the problem.
Yes.
Okay? That's why we're at the bottom of the ladder. The next level up on the accountability ladder, but still in the victim segment, is wait and hope. Now, the thing is, it's a good, you know, faithful principle that we have hope. But it is not a strategy for business that, you know, your go-to strategy is to wait and hope that it will get better. All right? That's showing up as a victim. So the four things on the bottom are being unaware, blaming people, making excuses, and waiting and hoping that it will resolve itself.
And that's not a powerful position to be in at all. Actually, that's a position of weakness. You're doing absolutely nothing. You're just sitting, waiting, blaming while you're doing so, and feeling sorry for yourself, and feeling sorry about the situation, but you've not yet done anything. You've not yet exerted your power, and you do have an awesome responsibility because you also have an awesome amount of power as a manager, as a leader, as a supervisor to make a difference. And that's where we now go above onto the next rung.
Exactly. So in the next level up, we are now in the position of showing up as being responsible and being powerful. So the first thing that we do is acknowledge the reality of what has happened or failed to happen, because sometimes there are errors of omission. So we acknowledge the reality, but we don't stop there. We then take ownership of it. And frankly, I don't know if you were the one who was responsible, who did or didn't do it. If you're the manager, you are responsible for your department and for everything that happens in the department. So you need to own it. All right, the next level up is to find a solution. So you switch from problem identification to problem solving mode. And then the final rung on the ladder, the accountability ladder, is to fix it. Because you can't change the past, but you certainly can take steps going forward to try and turn things around, or to put systems, processes and systems in place to ensure that the same problem does not recur. So on the upper rungs, where you show up as being responsible and powerful, you acknowledge the situation, you own the situation, you find solutions, and you proceed to implement solutions.
You know, sometimes when we hear own it, we feel that's punitive almost. It's like, oh my goodness, if I own it, then I'm the one who's going to take all the lashes. I am the one who's going to be penalized. I'm the one who's going to get the memo, you know, to start with. And that makes a lot of people extremely uncomfortable to own it. So how do you see owning it being so powerful?
Well, let me invite you first of all to consider the alternative. And the alternative is staying in the bottom rungs of the ladder, where you were oblivious, you're blaming other people, you're finding excuses. Imagine the memo you'd get from that compared to the memo you get from owning it, finding solutions, and implementing solutions.
Right, so owning it doesn't stop right there at owning it. The ownership of it means that you're propelling into finding solutions and fixing it. But it starts with understanding that I can do something about this and stop the blame game, because you later go on in the chapter talking about, you know, it's asking us to understand and appreciate the difference between blame, responsibility, and accountability. So how do you now, from your view, define blame in the context of what we're talking about here today?
Okay, so I tend to get a lot of pushback on my personal philosophy, blame. I don't have any use for blame under any circumstances. Why? It's completely backwards oriented, and the job is done as soon as you can find somebody to push under the bus. Right? That's the sole purpose of blame. So it does nothing to improve circumstances going forward. So why are we wasting our time there? So blame completely oriented towards the past. The focus is being able to point a finger at someone and castigate them and punish them and name them and shame them. Okay? All that results from that would be hurt feelings, damaged relationships, and it can even compromise your credibility as the leader, because if that's the reputation you get of just blaming people and then not moving forward, then your credibility can take a hit. So
You said
that's
it.
blame and my perspective.
You said it. Blame, but move forward. When I say blame, you know what I'm saying. Be able to identify what the problem is, or the person who's contributed to that situation. And sometimes the action they took might cause life, might be very, very dangerous to the success of an operation. You need to be able to acknowledge, identify, and acknowledge what it is. But within the context of not blaming, but being able to identify, so that you can now take the action to fix it. And to hold accountable.
And that's where the accountability comes in.
Yeah, you're quite right. But we're heading to that point, because having understood blame, let's understand responsibility now from your perspective. What does that mean?
Okay, so blame, of course, has a negative connotation, as we've just examined. Responsibility is sort of value neutral. Those are the things that you're expected to do. So you get a job description and it says responsibilities. Nobody gets afraid when they see the word responsibility, at least you ought not to, because it's simply telling you, these are the things that we're looking for you to execute.
Yes.
So responsibility is value neutral. It simply says what's within your sphere of control, what is expected of you in terms of performance, etc.
So it's just realities, just facing the realities. These are the things that are expected of you. So, That's it. And if you're going to accept the job, understand what are the responsibilities that are required of you so you can effectively do the job. And then comes accountability, because you've just accepted it. You've signed the deal that says, this is my role, these are the responsibilities that come with my role. So I will now be held accountable, and I cannot plead ignorance thereafter. Is that how you see accountability?
Absolutely. And, you know, accountability for me is simply having to answer for your execution or failure to your responsibilities. Now, typically, we talk more about accountability when something has gone wrong.
Yes, yes.
Right? Because then a correction needs to be made, because we're not doing the blame thing. We're not just focusing on the past. We're oriented towards solutions. So when something goes wrong, it can go wrong either because of something that you or a member of your team did, or it can be despite your best efforts, because stuff happens. We're not in complete control of either our internal or external environment, right? So for example, prior to the declaration of the pandemic, there were some strategic plans in government offices and in private businesses that people were responsible for executing. A pandemic was declared, we went on lockdown. They could no longer execute those wonderful strategic plans. Now, can't blame them, right? And as we look to hold them accountable, we have to realize that there were things that were outside of their control.
Right.
So what do? We're on the upper rungs of the ladder. We acknowledge the reality. We own the fact that, okay, we have to move away from this plan now because of changes in the external environment. What are the solutions we can implement? Let's go.
And we fix it. And we fix it. So we ask ourselves a few questions. It's an emotional journey as we go, but we talked about emotional intelligence before. So all along, how do we manage self? How do we manage those emotions? How do we better understand how to respond when situations occur? And that's what we're talking about here. When the buck stops by you, there are things that you can do so that you don't find yourself as a victim, but you find yourself as one who's responsible and powerful to make a decision and make a change. So what went wrong? Why did it happen? What measures now should be put in place to eliminate it possibly happening again? And that's what we're talking about in this chapter, folks. Joel, I gotta leave it right here. I'm so sorry. Time is up against us as always. But you can get a copy of this book, The Manager's First Aid Kit, from Days Bookstore. It's available in town. You can go to utdsinc.com. That's the website, utdsinc.com. It's available also on Amazon for anywhere else across the world. You can get a copy of this great Manager's First Aid Kit, or you can contact Joan herself. Joan Underwood is her name. She's here in Barbados, and get a copy of this book as well, and have it as your companion as you go, because I'm learning a lot. You can learn a lot too, like me. Thank you, Joan, as always. Look forward to seeing you next week, Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're heading into our doctor's surgery.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're talking with the doctor now. Who is that doctor at 20 minutes to 8 o'clock? That doctor is Dr. John Barker. He's an my tongue today, OBGYN. Dr. Barker, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Peterson. How are you?
I'm great, man. Those big words so early in the morning, you know you're going to trip that at some point in time. But today we want to look at fibroids, the uterine fibroids, and right away definition.
Right. Uterine fibroids are essentially benign or non-cancerous growths in the womb. Usually they occur from smooth muscle cells, and they're quite common, occur with 1 in 3 women, and more common in Black and women of Indian race as well.
Really? Why?
Usually genetic.
So, naturally predisposed?
Yes, Caucasians usually have a decreased incidence of uterine fibroids. And say in the UK where I had trained, you would get the majority of the pathology like in the ethnic mixed places, which would be like London. But as you move further outwards to like north, so like Liverpool or Manchester, depending, then the incidence would decrease due to the population.
How does a woman know she's battling with fibroids, uterine fibroids?
Right. Sometimes they can be completely asymptomatic, meaning that they don't have any symptoms. If, however, you are in a symptomatic group, you would either get something like heavy periods, so sometimes you can get like flooding or clotting, which could interfere with your quality of life. Sometimes you can get pressure, meaning that you're feeling something heavy in your tummy. Sometimes the fibroids can like press on the bladder, so sometimes you can get like urinary frequency as well. Or sometimes you can see an actual lump in your tummy, which means that the fibroids are quite big. So sometimes the patient might realize that the tummy getting a bit bigger. And in terms of gynecology, more than likely it could be a mass like fibroids or like a ovarian cyst, which can cause the actual tummy to come out and swell.
Come out and swell, but hard or soft? How does it feel?
Usually it's hard and irregular. Usually it's a hard and irregular mass. Sometimes if when you examine it, you can feel it moving depending on the type of fibroid it is.
That's scary. So then they come to you, the OBGYN or the GP, whomever, and there are different types of fibroids because I'm sure not every fibroid is the same.
No, fibroids are quite different. They have some, well, based on the anatomy of the uterus, sometimes they can be attached to the actual surface of the uterus by a stalk, and these are called pedunculated fibroids. I think I have 2 pictures there. So the one that I'm holding is that was actually about 1.5 feet wide, and the little stalk that looks like a pumpkin is the actual connection to the womb. And the picture on your right, the small like 2 masses there, that's the pedunculated fibroid, but that one was bent back on the actual uterus. So these are women that were walking about with these quite heavy things in them, and the tummies were quite large as well due to the mass effect. These would have been picked up by ultrasound, but sometimes when you do the ultrasound scan, it might look a bit more sinister than it actually is, because sometimes you might not be able to differentiate it from an actual ovarian cyst.
So, they get so big so fast, it feels.
Yeah, these would have been around for a while. Sometimes depending on the patient, sometimes they might not want medical intervention, or sometimes it might be the doctor might see them and counsel them appropriately, but then sometimes they might not actually operate within a certain time frame, so as a result they get bigger. So these ones are on the surface, which are called serosal fibroids, and these will be just up to the belly button. Right, and sometimes they will get more pain with them, because sometimes if they outgrow the blood supply, sometimes you get what you call red degeneration. So then the patient will come with lower abdominal pain, and sometimes they may have to get admitted to hospital for pain relief due to the fibroid having a decrease in blood flow.
Right, and a decrease in blood flow is not a good thing to have at all.
No. In terms of the fibroids, because sometimes it can get very painful, and sometimes you can get it like if you're pregnant, and the blood supply to the fibroid might get decreased. So sometimes you can come into hospital with pain.
I'm going to use some doctor words on you now. Myometrial and submucosal. You understand those words?
Yes,
What do those mean?
Right. the myometrial fibroids would be inside the actual muscle of the fibroids, yeah. So these ones you would only see like the uterus will be big and smooth. So the one on the left, the picture on the left, shows myometrial fibroids in the lower 2/3. The one at the top is a pedunculated fibroid. So that would have been from the picture that I showed you before. And the one in the middle is a laparoscopic view of a myometrial fibroid. So you can't tell that it is a fibroid just by looking at it. It is a fibroid, we know, because the actual uterus is big and the outside is smooth. So the last picture is how big that fibroid was from the actual laparoscopic view. So that one was done laparoscopically.
So that's myometrial, and then there's
Myometrial,
submucosal.
Right, and the submucosal fibroids are actually inside the cavity. So this is a hysteroscopic, meaning putting the camera inside the womb, and then this is the view that you see. So in terms of this fibroid, usually you will get bleeding in between the periods, or sometimes you can get a vaginal discharge from that as well too. And depending from the bleeding and stuff, this will be picked up by ultrasound, which will be either a transabdominal ultrasound or a transvaginal ultrasound, whereby we put the probe down below. And the next picture on the right is the same fibroid, which we removed via hysteroscopy. And essentially what we do was to reset the actual fibroid.
So, if she does not, how important is it that, I know, what's the prognosis here once a lady's been diagnosed with fibroids?
Right. Once we diagnose the fibroids, there are a number of factors we look at. One is the patient's age, and the next one would be if they have completed their family. And then we would discuss medical, conservative or surgical options. In terms of the conservative management would be medication. Sometimes we can give medication like tranexamic acid. Essentially what this does is to reduce the amount of clots and decrease the blood flow. And sometimes we can give you the good old northisterone. Essentially this is a hormone that thins the lining of the womb. And most patients, if they start on northisterone, are on it for the long run. The only issue with it is that sometimes you can get breakthrough bleeding, or if you stop the northisterone, then you start bleeding very heavily. And usually this occurs at the most inopportune times. Other conservative options would be like if the patient is over 45 and doesn't want a hysterectomy, but the fibroids are small, then we can offer them a minimal invasive techniques like endometrial ablation, which is essentially about a 5-10 minute procedure whereby you destroy the lining of the womb via either heat or microwave. Sorry, not microwave, radio frequency. Or sometimes we can offer them uterine artery embolization. Essentially what this does is blocks off the blood supply to the individual fibroids. Now, the only issue would be is if you're over 45 with heavy menses and stuff, before we even institute definitive management, what we need to do is to take a biopsy of the lining of the womb as a minimum standard. The gold standard, depending on what you find on ultrasound, more than likely would include a hysteroscopy, which is putting a camera in the womb, and either a directed biopsy, as in looking at the sample and taking one, or in addition to taking what we call a propel biopsy or a blind biopsy. So the gold standard would be the hysteroscopy and the directed biopsy with the blind biopsy as well. And the minimum standard would just be the endometrial biopsy. And this would be before we actually institute any medical or surgical treatment in relation to the bleeding that the patient has.
I'm going to hit fast forward for just a second because time, you know. So I just want to know, though, whether it is minor or major surgery that you have to do to deal with fibroids, what is the recovery rate and how long before she can really head home?
Okay, and in relation to the definitive management, if you do myomectomy, then is either by open technique or by laparoscopic technique. So the traditional is the open technique, and usually everybody's different. So usually by 3 weeks with the myomectomy, you should be well on your way to recovery, and by 6 weeks, most people, 80% will be fine. In terms of the more minimal access techniques, which would be the laparoscopic myomectomy, your recovery rate will be quicker because you're doing it through very small incisions. There's a relatively new technique called laparoscopic assisted abdominal myomectomy, which is used to treat bigger fibroids like up to your belly button. And the first part of the surgery is done laparoscopically, and then the second part of the surgery, because the fibroids are so big, you can't destroy them via morcellation. So what we do is that we make a very small incision, like a bikini line incision, about 2 inches. So this is much better than the open technique because the actual recovery is just as quick as the total laparoscopic route as well. In terms of the hysterectomy, is the same. The traditional route is your recovery is about 8 weeks. Sometimes it can be longer. However, the laparoscopic route is much quicker.
All right. Well, it starts with a discussion, ladies. If you're having these experiences, talk to your medical doctor, talk to your gynecologist, and get it all sorted out, because there is hope at the end of it all. Dr. Barker, thanks. I got to leave it right there, but thanks
a lot.
I mean, you teach me so much. I've learned. I'll become a medical student when I sit with you, but thank you so much, sir. Have a good day.
No problem.
All right.
No problem. You too.
Thank you. We're going to take a break here quickly. We'll come right back with Born to Win, the author of the book.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So we only have 6 minutes now to go to 8 o'clock, and we are going to bring you some victory with Victorine. Victorine Wilson is the author. You laugh. You like that, no? You like that, no, Victorine? I like it too.
Okay.
Good to meet you. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning and good morning, Barbados.
Thank you so much for writing that pocketbook of encouragement called
Yes.
No Longer a Prisoner,
No Longer.
Born to Win.
Born to Win.
And you said this inspiration came from an interaction you had with a young man.
Yeah. Yes, it did.
So why did you translate that inspiration then into a book?
Because I know there are persons who out there that are suffering in silence. And from my own experience, I knew that I needed encouragement when I was going through my challenges. So I just decided to put pen to paper. And I know that there are some people who are scared to reach out. So my book would be reaching out to you.
Mm-hmm. So for you, writing it was therapeutic. And through your therapy, you're hoping other people to find themselves winners, because we're all born to win. Moving away from that position of despair and recognize that there is a winner in each of us. So how has it been going so far with the book?
It's been going pretty well. And that's another reason why I'm here. So more people it would get to more people, to more Barbados. Yeah.
So, what is it that kept people in prison that you want to bring out in the book?
Their thoughts, past experiences. Yes, and we tend to not want to move on from these things, and sometimes it stops us from reaching our full potential. Yeah.
So in it, you're
and
broken it
achieving
down.
our goals.
Yeah, you're right. So you're helping us then understand and put into perspective our thoughts, our dreams, our challenges, so we understand that we're a whole lot stronger than we actually sometimes condition our minds to think.
Yes.
So what was
Yes.
it that taught you so that you can interpret in this kind of way?
I would say my experience in counseling, years of it, started in 2003. So my experience in counseling and having information, as the old people say, directly from the horse's mouth. So it's nothing made up, it's basically information gathered from those persons who would have been through it.
Right.
Yeah, through the situations, yes.
How many chapters are in the book, and walk me through how many chapters are in the book?
Wow. There are about 10 chapters in the book. It's about the strength within. It's about negative thinking and positive thinking. It's also about not allowing yourself to stop yourself from doing what you need to do to progress in life, to cope, to be able to, move forward from that place.
Right.
It's also about knowing oneself, becoming self-aware.
So sometimes we are our greatest hindrance. That's what you're saying to me here. We put ourselves into our own prison, mentally and emotionally, and then we wonder how to get out of it, and we want to blame others. But knowing oneself shows you that you have the power to win. You have the power to break down those walls, break down those barriers, and succeed. So the stories that you tell within the book are personal because you poured your soul into
and
it.
real life and real life experiences from other persons that I interviewed. Yes.
And so together we can all share and learn from other people's experiences as well. This is great. How long did it take you to compile?
Well, about between 3 to 4 years, because at that time too, I was going through my own challenges. So there were times that there was nothing coming. There are times that I put down the script for about 6 months, and I didn't write anything. So sometimes it was difficult, but I made it.
You made it. You found the courage to pick up and go again. And that's life. Because that's what we all go through from time to time. You just feel sometimes like giving up because either you've grown tired or disenchanted. But then a spark goes and that light turns on and suddenly you go again. But I love the fact that you've allowed your relationship with God, Jehovah God, to be able to guide you through the process as well.
Yes. He has been a lot of my hope, my strength. And sometimes you think that no one is there, but he is. And I'm a very praying woman. I call myself a prayer warrior.
All right.
So, yeah.
See, now we're victory with victory, victory with victory. And so, folks, today, we can live that victorious life as well. We can get copies of the book from Cloisters Bookstore. We can also get it from Amazon. And if you know Victorine Wilson is her name, stop her and ask her to get a copy. Buy a copy. No longer a prisoner, born to win. It's one of encouragement which so many people need right now because we're confronted with so many different challenges, and we just need to know that we were born to win. And in winning, we become better, and we help others to win as well. So we build a community of winners. That's sweet. Victorine Wilson, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Best of luck with this
thank
book.
you too.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Remember, the book is available, folks, on Amazon or from Cloisters Bookstores. That's it for today. We want to thank you so much for joining us. For our little crew, there's Roel, Nadia, Andy, Michael Sobers, and Ryan at Master Control. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.